What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we are doing our part 5 of our hardcore druid companion build series. Now we are picking up right where I left off from the last video. Last video I completed my Cathedral of Light capstone dungeon, and that went pretty well. I was pretty happy overall with how the build functioned, and then moved into tier 3. And from there I picked up a couple levels doing Tree of Whispers, and then I eventually got my first Nightmare Dungeon key. And really right here, you're just seeing me put in my first points on my Paragon board. Now, I would like to say these are not really guide videos. It's just really kind of gameplay videos and my personal preferences as I play the game. And I don't really utilize any guide videos myself. I don't really use Max Roll or Icy Veins or any of the websites. I kind of like to play the game and learn it organically. And I know there are probably tons of ways you can do things, to optimize everything, but I just kind of prefer to do it my way, right? So I tend to have a lot more fun that way, and I get a little bit more longevity out of the game because I do find that typically when you do tend to use a lot of build guide sites, you take away that kind of, enjoyment of piecing together builds that are quite different than some of the things you might end up picking up if you were using a website. So, and that's not to say they're bad. It's just my own personal preference. So anyway, you see there I pick up Earth and Sky as one of my first glipes, and not because I wanted to, but just because there's a pretty silly system here where when you first start getting into your Paragon boards, you have to get all your glipes or your glyphs from drops. And I think that's pretty silly overall. I think they should just give it to you. I don't see the purpose of making it RNG based as you're starting out, especially considering those first few levels that those first few nightmare dungeons you do. You definitely want to be putting those into a glyph that it's actually really useful for your build. And if you don't get that as a drop, well, then you're kind of just throwing points into a useless glyph that you're not going to use. And Earth and Sky would be one of those useless glyphs that I'm probably not going to use. Sorry, guys. I'm still getting over that little bit of sickness I had. But I initially thought maybe I'd want to go for like Dex base glyph, but like Exploiter. But I ended up eventually moving out of that, and I will be doing a more in-depth review of my overall build and Paragon board before I do my tier 3 capstone dungeon. But for right now, we're not quite there yet. I think I end this video at level 60, and I'm currently level 63 as of making this video. So I'm going to be focusing a lot more, trying to get a lot more time in with the game so I can crank that up and hurry up and get to tier 4 so we can start really getting the in-game gear and piecing everything together with the way I kind of want it. Now, like I said from the get-go of these videos, I didn't really want to make a build that was focused around uniques. However, I will probably be making two separate in-game videos with different builds. One that doesn't focus around the Tempest helmet, and one with the Tempest helmet. So those are two dramatically different builds in terms of skill point allocations, as well as some significant changes to the Paragon boards that I plan on making. But I didn't want to, I obviously want to give two different, outlooks on the build. So at first, we're going to do just a build, and hopefully we'll eventually get the Storm Companion pants, because that is the only unique that I definitely want to make a part of both of those builds. And that's just because I want the Storm Wolves. I want them to be casting Lightning Storm. As Lightning Storm, as you can see, is our core skill damage dealer. And I just kind of wanted to keep it all together. So I thought that would be something that's pretty fun about the build and something I don't really see a lot of. But I haven't been having a lot of good luck with uniques so far. Well, I can't say that. I've had quite a few uniques. However, most of them have been Mad Wolf's Glee. I think I've had like 4 or 5 chest plates that were all Mad Wolf's Glee. And then I have had, I think, about the same amount of Zenith rings. There was a point in time during my playthrough, I think I was streaming at the time, that I ended up picking up 2 Zenith rings back to back, one right after the other. And I was kind of disappointed. And obviously, anytime I get a helmet, it's always going to be a Vasily's helmet. I don't know why. It's like the game wants me to play Werebear. And don't get me wrong, I got much love for my Werebear. That was initially what I wanted to play, but I found I found the builds kind of boring in a way. Not necessarily boring, but just I don't know. I like Trample Slide. I like the mobility aspect of Trample Slide, but Pulverize didn't really do it for me. And so I kind of wanted to do something different. But yeah, I always get Vasily's on my helmet, never Tempest, and just picking up a ton of Zenith Rings and a ton of Mad Wolf's Glee. Never really had a Storm Companion pants drop, so I'm hoping to get one of those. You know, obviously not in tier 3. I prefer the first one I get to be in tier 4, and preferably one of very high gear power and pretty decent rolls. But that's really the only unique that I want to focus around. And as you can see here, we're moving through the game pretty well so far in tier 3. Our damage is pretty decent overall. We did end up picking up the aspect of the alpha and put it on one of our rings, and it's really just a flex spot. I just kind of like the idea of having the werewolves running around with me. Not that they're not that they're that great, but they just look cool. I was thinking though, they have a pretty unique little a buff from the aspect of the alpha here, and it gives you a significant damage increase to your wolves. But I was wondering, when I get those Storm Companion pants, I'm wondering if their damage with Lightning Storm will scale off of their damage bonus they get from the aspect of the alpha. Because if it does, I might be getting some pretty decent Lightning Storm damage out of the werewolves. If it doesn't, it's like, oh well, it still looks pretty cool. And I'm hoping they actually cast Lightning Storm pretty frequently. If not, I'll probably do like a little breakdown about how I believe, Storm Companion pants should function to make them a viable option for players. I was also thinking overall with the uniques, a lot of the problems with uniques that they have is, when you get a unique, you tend to not really want to use it too often because a lot of times the uniques have pretty terrible affixes that, especially on your defensive pieces of gear, that really won't work too well when you're trying to push into those higher tier nightmare dungeons or trying to kill Uber Lilith. So I was really thinking a way that they could improve Uber, not Uber, but regular uniques is, give us that opportunity to reroll one stat and give them fixed affixes, much like Primal Gear from Diablo 3. I thought that would be a great idea. But, let me know what you guys think down in the comments section. But overall, we're not really getting too lucky with our unique drops. We're getting plenty of them, just not the ones that we want. And overall, though, with our gearing, we're doing pretty well. We're getting some decent crit chance and lucky hit chance on our gear pieces. I do have pretty much every aspect that I'm looking for at a pretty decent roll. The only thing I really ran into was resources. I was having a hard time getting enough crystals and getting enough gold initially to reroll my gear. Obviously everybody knows when you're starting out, it's pretty tough on the gold and tough on the materials to reroll gear and kind of change out your aspects. But we did manage to farm up enough resources to do that. So our build is pretty complete for right now in tier 3, and we're just kind of doing nightmare dungeons and the occasional hell tide to get some forgotten souls to level up our druid. And like I said, you see I skipped ahead here, and this was during my stream. Funny thing about my stream, I actually streamed an entire stream with just half of my gameplay screen. So obviously I'm new to this stuff, and I didn't realize I was going through the settings and I wanted to use some of my gameplay from my streams to make videos. And I accidentally clicked the gameplay screen and moved it out like halfway off of the actual gameplay surface and saved it that way. So I played an entire 2 hours of just half the screen. I looked like a real moron, but I thought it was kind of funny. In hindsight, it was pretty funny. But at the time, I was like, dang, I missed that. I missed out on that opportunity to, get some good footage for my videos. But yeah, we ended up fixing that, thankfully. And we moved into, just kind of completing our last strongholds here. So I had a couple nightmare keys that I didn't have the stronghold completed for. So I just went ahead and finished up. I think there was 2 of them I had left over. I went ahead and finished them up so that way I could unlock those nightmare dungeons and just not have to kind of, work around them. I will say I will probably never do the lightning storm nightmare dungeons anymore. There was a point where I almost died because the big bubble summoned on top of about, I want to say 3 or 4 AoE damage dealing CCing elites. And then on top of that, you know, it spawned way far away from me. So I had to choose either am I going to take the lightning damage or am I going to chance it and run into the bubble? And I did not have a potion to give me that extra life up at the time. So luckily I didn't die, but I came very close to dying. And we eventually moved past that. So I probably won't be doing the Lightning Storm Nightmare Dungeons just because, man, they are so annoying. Not only do you have to, constantly backtrack because the bubble pops down somewhere, but usually those bubbles pop down and they're popping down in the worst places. There, a bunch of enemies inside of them. There's tons of AoE fears and freezes inside the bubble, plus a bunch of AoE poison damage. I mean, I really hope they just kind of take that one out of the game. I'm not too, I'm not too worried about Stormwrath's Bane. That one can be kind of annoying if you're melee oriented because it constantly just stops and then starts popping down damage, and that's a big AoE around your target. But because we're more ranged based, I can kind of sit on the outside. The only time it gets annoying is when you're trying to pick your items up. So something I wanted to show you guys here. You see how the werewolf is standing up in the sky? So 2 things I wanted to note here from the previous patches. I believe they said they patched it to where werewolves no longer float up in the sky. And then also, I believe they patched it where after channeling a skill, if you dodge, you get stuck in place. But I'm still experiencing both of those bugs. So, and not as frequently as I was before, but werewolves are still kind of getting stuck up in the sky. And then every now and again, and it can be very annoying because it's usually at the worst times, I will do a dodge and my guy will I will lose complete control of my hero and I can't really move anywhere. So hopefully, hopefully they're aware of those things and they patch them the rest of the way and get them fixed up really fast. And I did have a pretty interesting fight with the butcher that I didn't include in this video, but just for you guys who are out there who are having a hard time with the butcher, just kite him around something. Run him around something really, especially if you don't have anything that gives you unstoppable. Run him around in a circle. That's usually how you defeat the butcher. But overall, moving around pretty decently, moving through the game pretty decently, completing up my nightmare dungeons. I typically like to stay about 5 levels above my current level when it comes to nightmare dungeons, but I have been doing 8 levels above, and I felt pretty good about it. The damage could be a little better, but 8 levels above is a little bit higher than I normally do. But that's really it for the video, guys. I'm having a pretty great time with this build. Like I said, I'm at NicoRex over on twitch.tv. Come by, let's start a conversation. Let's have a good time playing the game together. But that's it for me for right now. You guys have a great rest of your day or night, wherever you are from. And yeah, see you in the next one. Peace out, guys.